All right, so this video is about tonality. The natural, we'll call it tone or expression, or let's say the modulation of the voice when you are in complete sync and awareness of yourself. I think tonality cannot be taught. If you're talking to your friend, your voice changes. Have you noticed how your voice changes depending on who you're interacting with? If someone calls you that you don't like, your voice changes. Not just your voice changes throughout from morning to night. If you were to recognize, you call somebody in the morning and how they sound. The kapha, or let's say the body is still asleep. The temperature of the body changes the voice. It's actually quite a deep research into many, many levels. There's a psychology level. There's the our emotional level of how we express. So the point I want to make is tonality, coming back to tonality. Wow, it's a beautiful morning, by the way. I'm on my morning walk here in Vrindavan. So here it is for all my musician friends and people who are interested in unlocking the voice, as they say. So many courses and seminars and workshops happening. I'm talking about the natural voice. I mean, that in itself is a deep, it's a very big conversation. How to explore, come to a place of singing in your natural tone. How many times I've seen singers, oh my God, it's like, too much nose, too much chest, too much. There's a natural way. Everybody has it's frustrating. Well, you can't really put that in words until you actually find your natural tone. So that's a whole separate conversation itself. But coming back to tonality, I think tonality, or let's say the inner, the emotions that we feel when we think of something, or when we're interacting with a person that we have a certain relationship with. I think the tone of the voice naturally demonstrates our state of being, our state of emotional being. So for instance, does anybody need to teach you how to talk to your lover, for instance? When your lover calls you on the phone, you go, oh, as soon as you find out it's the person that you love, hello darling, how are you? There's this affection, right? When we talk to kids, for instance, children, when we are giving a presentation, have you ever noticed how air hostess tell you to buckle up with a little bit of authority? Firmness, right? Or a police officer, even though he's being polite, but he's asking you in a firm way to produce your license, for instance. Can I please have your driver license, please? It's polite, but at the same time it's saying, well, you better abide by what commands we're telling you, right? So it's very subtle. We're quite very sophisticated animals in so many ways. So tonality it's natural. That cannot be taught. That's the point I'm making. So, of course, the voice has to train to be able to be steady in its airflow, to be able to hold a note, to be able to polish and enhance and beautify a raw sound, like from da to da. You see? So that's all part of voice culture anyways. That's why you train, you practice. But we're coming back to very specific, talk about tonality here. Okay, so maybe we can name it something different. We can name it voice release, voice intention. In what intention are you releasing the voice? This is where it's very frustrating when I see a lot of singers, like for instance, in the Kirtan scene, there's yelling and really hard and harsh and confrontation, and I think that it's tipped the balance. A lot of the kirtans that I hear from my friends and in other kirtan groups, I guess it's a combination of It's almost like it's expected. Like people just want to come and dance and just, maybe I'm getting old. Maybe that's what's happening. just superficial stuff just doesn't get me anymore. You know, I used to do all those big kirtans when in my teens, in my early 20s. I think maybe it's old age. But anyhow, on a more serious note, I've been witnessing this a lot. A lot of kirtans to me is so in Indian classical we have the concept of navaras, the 9 kinds of expression, and one of them is viraras. Veer means like how would you express if you're trying to proclaim something, you're trying to let's say conquer, right? How would you if you had to climb a hill and put down the flag of America, right? You know, that very famous picture of all these people putting the flag up. How would you yell like King Kong from the top of the hill of proclaiming that you've conquered this land? That's the tonality I find a lot in kirtan. It's like this harsh, loud, quite frankly, most of the time obnoxious. You know, the more you scream, the more you like, and more people start dancing. And I often think, okay, there's a time, place for that. There's multiple shades of expression, of course. I'm not asking everybody to do it once all the time. But in a more subtle way, if you think about how everything in nature, right? Music is an inspiration of nature, right? It's an expansion of how we feel in nature. It's so subtle. It's so refined. It's so delicate. It's so soft. The deeper you go, you realize everything is so perfectly balanced and rested in the most accurate, punctual, and beautiful way. So I think an inner prayer, let's put it this way. Yes, festivals are great and big kirtans and groups and kirtan seminars, they're all good. But where does the real prayer happen? When all the festivals are finished and you're going back by yourself, perhaps driving back home on your bike, relishing at what just happened, and you internalize all that, all those voices, multiple voices, becoming one voice, your own voice in your heart. So in solitude and in sacredness, when you're alone, the most profound prayer happens, tonality. Now, how can you produce that tonality when you feel the most humbled and in awe of this universe? How do you bring that internal prayer and allow people to see that happening within your heart? Now, that takes a deeper amount of spiritual maturity, of course, to begin with sincerity and sensitivity. This is the point I'm making. Sensitivity. So this is where tonality is so important. Sorry, I got I got off the topic. Someone called me and said I was on a roll just then. So coming back to that, I would like to make aware of people who are singing kirtan and thinking about exploring the voices. Find your voice in the most intimate, private way. And a singer's what really a singer's doing is ripping his heart open in front of everyone for them to see his way of praying. He's giving you an insight. It's a very vulnerable place. He's giving you an insight of how his relation with the divine, with the universe is. That's what a singer's doing, really, and in a more mature way. So as much as I love these occasional big, and believe me, I've done it a lot in the Indian community and growing up in a religious cult. Big, massive, big kirtans in front of everyone. That has its time and place. But I think I'm perhaps beginning to understand a deeper way of accessing something which is silent, which is ever existing. So next time you sing Om Namah Shivaya or Jai Ma Durga, please don't, you're not wrestling with Durga. You know, I often make this joke as, how do you talk to your beloved? Do you say, hey honey? No, in the morning, how delicately would you wake up your lover? It's a very good example. So tonality naturally comes when we're aware, when we are connected. Anyhow, so much to say on this topic. But I don't know, this morning, so on my walk, and I was thinking, talk a little bit about voice culture. Big part of it is how to bring the natural voice to a place of expression of love. How do you talk when you're in love? So to all my friends, those singings are good when your side veins pop up in your throat. That has its time. Head tilted back, screaming up into the sky. That has its time. Everything is beautiful and has its time and place. However, if the concept is that we are invoking something very deep, intimate within us, it's an intimate conversation. How delicate would you be? See, a buffalo can go into a field and just destroy it with this might and strength. But creating anything requires sensitivity, much more, deeper intelligence and knowing. So that's why in Indian classical, out of all the rasas, Karuna ras, this ras of like compassion and love, right? Ultimately, bhakti ras, devotion, is considered the most, I don't want to say high or low, but definitely most desirable. Because when all the party's done and you're left alone, I hope you have a private prayer, which is in intimacy with yourself. So that's what I'm going to say about tonality. So watch your tone when you sing. Be loving. Let's not try to wrestle God and subdue him. Good morning.